So is it really true what that dramatic actor says? That if a phone company discovered that China was spying on their customers, that they'd drop Huawei and never use it again? Yeah, no. And I can say this with certainty because it has already happened, obviously. There's a European cell phone company called Vodafone. And would you look at this? Vodafone found hidden backdoors in Huawei equipment, while the carrier says the issues found in 2011, 2012 were resolved at the time. The revelation may further damage the reputation of a Chinese powerhouse. Got it. The issues were resolved, as in no one was fired, no one stopped using Huawei. What? Were they going to throw out $1 billion worth of hardware and face international embarrassment, maybe even a class action lawsuit from their customers if they admitted something was wrong? Or would they just have a private, quiet little meeting at the Chinese embassy, maybe over a nice meal, maybe, and just resolve it? That's the thing. As we've learned recently, Huawei bribes Canadians all the time. Now, sometimes the bribes are legal, like when Huawei gives millions of dollars to the University of British Columbia, and we've learned that this was enough to make the university administration take China's side in the hostage crisis. That's all it takes to make a mighty institution like UBC shill for Communist China. Just give them a few million bucks. At least we know about that, though. Unlike, say, the Trudeau Foundation, whose foreign funding skyrocketed after Trudeau became Prime Minister, but they haven't disclosed who paid that money. Gee, I wonder who. This kind of bribery is massive. I mean, China has what? $2-3 trillion worth of foreign currency reserves? What's a few million here or there? What's even a few billion to corrupt the West? And look at this news from a Hong Kong newspaper called the South China Morning Post. Prestigious U.S. schools, including Harvard and Yale, under U.S. investigation over foreign funding gifts from China. And look at this. Yale may not have disclosed at least $375 million in contributions, while Harvard may lack appropriate controls to track money it receives. Gee, I wonder if that's on purpose or by accident, that they don't track their money. Authorities have requested records of gifts from foreign sources, including Huawei and ZTE, as well as documents related to China's 1,000 Talents plan. Let me read a few paragraphs from this story. The U.S. Education Department announced that it has launched an investigation into Harvard and Yale universities on suspicion of failing to report hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign gifts and contracts from China and other countries. The agency said Yale may have failed to report at least $375 million in foreign gifts and contracts, choosing not to report any gifts and contracts over the last 4 years. Harvard, it added, may lack appropriate institutional controls over foreign money and fail to fully report all foreign gifts and contracts as required by law. This is about transparency, said U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos in a statement. Unfortunately, the more we dig, the more we find that too many are under-reporting or not reporting at all. We will continue to hold universities and colleges accountable. Yeah, you know the thing about universities? When was the last time you've been on a university? It's sort of incredible these days. They sell naming rights for everything. It's like a Formula One car driver with all these patches on his outfit. They name buildings, they name rooms in buildings. Entire schools on a university campuses are named, and they're named after the generous donors. I mean, donors like the recognition, and universities like creating a culture of philanthropists outdoing each other, sort of a competition of who can out-donate each other, who gets to name the school after them. It's very healthy, I think. Billionaires buying hospital wings to be named after themselves. We all win when that happens, don't we? I like naming things. I love it. And so do universities. So how weird is it? How odd that these donors don't want to be known. They want to be secret, and the universities are helping them keep a secret. That's sort of opposite land, isn't it? Why would you keep it a secret? Unless there's something about it that you're shy about, that you're embarrassed about, like taking Chinese money for reasons you don't really want to have to explain to the public. Which brings us to Telus. Just an awful, awful phone company. They're all terrible, but I think Telus is the worst. First of all, they're so leftist. It's gross. They recently announced some weird plan that they brag. They're a neutral company, but they're saying they're inspired by the Liberal Party of Canada. What? Are you a company or a political party? What are you doing with shareholder money? Well, they're heavily regulated by Trudeau's CRTC, so what do you think they are? They've always been anti-oil sands too, which is when they first irritated me. They're super gross when you remember that Telus was born from AGT, Alberta Government Telephones. They actually come from Alberta, but they hate Alberta now, or at least the oil sands. But boy, do they love China. Take a look at this. Canada's Telus to launch 5G network with Huawei soon, CFO. Canadian telecom operator Telus Corp will soon begin rolling out its 5G network, and its initial module will be with Huawei Technologies Company Limited's equipment. The company's chief financial officer, Doug French, said on Thursday, "It's important for us to launch our network when the time is right," French said in a statement, adding that the company will continue to collaborate with the Canadian government in building the ecosystem. Gee, I wonder what discussions Doug French has had with the Chinese government. I wonder if there are any undisclosed payments to Telus, any secrets like Yale and Harvard have kept, like Vodafone has covered up. Do you trust Telus? I can't trust them as far as I can throw their phones. Look, this is not a right-wing criticism. This is a Canadian criticism. It's a democracy thing. Here, listen to Barack Obama's national security advisor if you think this is just a right-wing thing. Here's Susan Rice.
It gives the Chinese the ability, if they choose to use it, to access all kinds of information, civilian intelligence, military, that could be very, very compromising. So much as I disagree with the Trump administration on a number of things, on this, their concern about Huawei, I believe they're right.
As a matter of protection, would the United States have to have a slightly different security relationship with Canada?
Yes, and that will throw the Five Eyes collaboration, which serves the security interests of every Canadian and every American, into jeopardy. It can't be done.
Can't share.
I don't see how we can share in the way we have. It's not a joke. It's truly serious.
Yeah, Huawei is really just the corporatizing of China's cyber warfare agency, and now Telus wants to be their Canadian base of operations. If you use Telus, if you have a Telus phone or Telus internet account or cable, time to switch. How do you feel about being a guinea pig for Huawei? How do you feel about Huawei being able to snoop on your calls and emails and what you watch on the internet without anyone even knowing? So who does want this? Well, Trudeau seems to. He admires China's basic dictatorship.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. And our U.S. allies say if we go ahead and build our communication networks with Chinese spyware like Telus says they're going to do, the U.S. will cut us off as allies in sharing secrets with us. But maybe Trudeau sort of wants that. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.